Hey guys. So, I thought that I would read you the second chapter of The Distance Between Us. You should already see on top of this video the summary from chapter 1. So we are going to read chapter 2, and then I am going to put some questions for you in the discussion. So make sure that you're paying attention. Make sure that you are following along. If you need to rewatch the video, you have that opportunity so you can answer these questions. Okay? So, chapter 2. Every day, while Mago and Carlos were at school, I stood by the gate and looked down the dirt road where Mommy had disappeared, hoping to see her return. Go inside, Nina, Mago said when she and Carlos arrived from school. She ushered me back into our grandmother's house, where we spent the rest of the afternoon doing nothing but chores. Man, that sounds kind of boring. You won't stay here for free, Abuela Vila had said as soon as the gate had closed behind us that morning when Mommy had left. And by now, I knew she meant it. 2 weeks had gone by, and everyone in the neighborhood now knew our mother had left. We couldn't go anywhere without people looking at us with pity. One day, Mago and I were passing by the baker's house on our way to the tortilla mill, and the baker's wife looked at us and said to her husband, "Look at them, poor little orphans." So an orphan, guys, is a child who has no parents, and that's why they are calling them orphans, because they're not with their parents. "We aren't orphans," I yelled. I grabbed a rock to throw at her, but I knew Mommy would be disappointed in me if I threw it. So I let it fall to the ground. Still, the baker's wife had seen the look in my eyes. She knew what I'd been about to do. "Shame on you, girl," she scolded. "I want the earth to swallow me whole if I had a daughter like you." "Oh, don't be too harsh on the girl," the baker said. "It's a sad thing not to have any parents." He got into his bicycle to deliver his bread. I watched him until he turned the corner, mesmerized at how he wove his bike through the rocks on the dirt road without losing his balance and spilling all the bread in his giant hat basket. "If your mother ever comes back, I'll be sure to tell her of your behavior," the baker said, pointing a finger at me. She went into her house and slammed the door shut. "I can't believe you," Mago said, whacking me with the straw tortilla basket. My eyes stung with tears. "But we aren't orphans!" She was too angry to speak to me. She held me tightly by the wrist and hurried me along to the tortilla mill. I stumbled on a rock and would have fallen if Mago hadn't been holding me. She slowed down and loosened her hold on my wrist. "I don't want people feeling sorry for us," I told her. She stopped walking then. She stopped walking then. She touched the scars on her face from an accident when she was little. There was a scar on her cheek, her eyelid, and on the bridge of her nose. People always felt sorry for Mago because of her scars, and she hated it. "I'm sorry I hit you, Nena," she said. At hearing her call me baby, I immediately forgave her. When we got back from the tortilla mill, my cousin Alita was waiting by the gate, asking why we'd taken so long. "Can't you see I'm hungry?" Alita, who was going on 13, had a round chubby face and big puffy eyes that looked like frog eyes. I thought that since we were all in the same situation, having been left behind by our parents, we would be friends. Alita wasn't interested in being our friend. Like the neighbors, she called us the little orphans, even though her mother had left her too. The pretty dresses Abuela Vila made for her on her sewing machine and the many gifts her mother sent her from El Otro Lado helped Alida transform herself from the little orphan to a privileged granddaughter. She was everything we were not. At seeing her, I got angry again, at being called an orphan, at being hit by Mago, at my mother for leaving, and at my father for taking her away. "Your hair looks like a horse's tail," I said. "Stupid orphan," she said, yanking my pigtail. Abuela Vila took the tortillas from Mago and didn't say anything to Alida for pulling my hair. Remember, we did not say the word stupid. Carlos, Mago, and I sat on 2 concrete steps leading from the kitchen to my grandmother's bedroom, since the table was only big enough for 4 people and those seats were taken already. Abuela Vila gave a pork chop to my grandfather, another to Elida, the third to my aunt, Tia Emperitis, and the last pork chop she took for herself. By the time the frying pan came our way, there was nothing but oil left. Abuela Vila scooped up spoonfuls of oil and mixed it with our beans for flavor, she said. If Papi were here, if Mommy were here, we wouldn't be eating oil, I thought. Isn't there any meat left? The emperatriz asked. Abuela Vila shook her head. The money you left me this morning didn't go very far at el mercado, she said. And their parents haven't sent me anything this week. My aunt looked at our oily beans. She grabbed her purse and gave Mago a coin to buy us a soda. Mago came back from the store with a Fanta. We thanked our aunt and took sips from the bottle, but the sweet taste of orange didn't wash away the oil in our mouths. What's the point of them being in el otro lado if you're going to be eating like beggars? Mago said after our meal. We took the dirty dishes out of the washing stone. Then we cleaned the table and swept the dirty floor. Carlos took the trash can out to the backyard to burn the pile of garbage. Regina, Abuela Vila called out from her bedroom, where she was mending her dresses. Regina, come here, she said. It took me a moment to realize that she was calling me, since Regina isn't my name. But I was born on September 7th, the day of the Saint Regina, and my grandmother chose that name for me at birth. Mommy disobeyed her and named me Reina instead. Yes, abuela, I said as I came to the door. Go to Don Bartolo's store to buy me a needle, she said, handing me a coin, and hurry back. Don Bartolo's two daughters were playing hopscotch outside of his store. When they saw me walking past them, they pointed at me and they said, Look, there goes the little orphan. This time I didn't think twice. I didn't care if the whole neighborhood thought I was wild and disgrace to my family. I threw the coin as hard as I could. It hit the taller girl above her right eye. She screamed and ran into the store, calling to her father. I ran home as fast as I could, leaving the coin on the ground. When Abuela Vila asked me for her needle, I had no choice but to tell her the truth. She called Mago over and said, Take your sister to apologize to Don Bartolo and don't come back without my needle. Mago grabbed my hand and pulled me along. Now you've done it, she said. She shouldn't have called me an orphan. I yanked my hand from Mago's and stopped walking. She looked at me for a long time. I thought she was going to hit me, but instead she took my hand and pulled me along in the other direction. Where are we going? I asked. She didn't tell me where she was taking me, but as soon as we turned the corner, the little house we had once rented came into view. We stopped in front of it. The window was open, and I could smell beans boiling on the stove. I heard the sound of a woman singing along to the radio. Margot said she didn't know who the new tenants were. Tenants are people who live in a place, so if you rent an apartment, you are the tenant of that apartment. But it'd always be the house where we'd lived with our parents. No one can take that away, she said. I know you don't remember Papi at all, but whatever you remember about Mommy and this house is yours to keep forever. I followed her down to the canal at the bottom of the hill. Mommy would do the washing there. This is where Mommy saved your life, Nena, remember? Margot said. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. The year before, I'd almost drowned in the canal. The rainy season had turned it into a gushing river, and the current had been swift and strong. Mommy told me to sit on the washing stones and stay by her side, but she'd let Margot and Carlos get into the water and play with the other kids. I wanted to get in, and when Mommy was busy rinsing our clothes and looking the other way, I jumped in. The current pulled me down the canal. So a current is the way that the water moves down the stream. So if the current is super strong, it means that the water is super strong and it's moving really fast. So you got to imagine she's a little girl and she went into the river and she's in the canal. And so now it's going super fast. And so we'll see what happens. I couldn't touch the bottom. Mommy got to me just in time. Now we went back to Abuela Vila's house, not knowing what we were going to tell her. Before we went into the house itself, Margot took me into a small shack of bamboo sticks and cardboard near the patio. Inside were large clay pots, a big griddle, and other pots and pans. I'd be born in this shack. This is where Mommy and Papi had first lived when they gotten married. Margot and I sat on the dirt floor, and she told me about the day I was born, exactly the way Mommy used to tell it. She pointed to the circle of rocks and a pile of ash and told me that during my birth a fire had been burning. When I was born, the midwife put me in my mother's arms, and Mommy turned to face the fire to keep me warm. As I listened to Ma go down, I closed my eyes and I felt the heat of the flames and heard Mommy's heart beating against my ear. Margot pointed to a spot on the dirt floor and reminded me that my umbilical cord was buried there. That way, Mommy had told the midwife, no matter where life takes her, she won't ever forget where she came from. But then Margot touched my belly button and said something my mother had never said. She said my umbilical cord was like a ribbon that connected me to Mommy. She said it doesn't matter that there's a distance between us now, that cord is there forever. I touched my belly button, and I thought about what my sister had said. I had Papi's photo to keep me connected to him. I had no photo of my mother, but now my sister had given me something to remember her by. We still have a mother and father, Mago said. We aren't orphans, Nena. Just because they aren't with us doesn't mean we don't have parents anymore. Now come on, let's go tell our grandmother we had no needle for her. She's going to beat me, I said as we headed to the house. And she's going to beat you too, even though you didn't do anything. I know, she said. Wait, I said. I ran at the gate before I lost my nerve. I ran down the street as fast as I could. Outside the store, Don Bartolo's daughters were playing again. They glared at me the moment they saw me. Suddenly, my feet didn't want to keep walking. I put a finger on my belly button. I'm sorry I hit you with the coin, I told the girl. She turned, looked at her father, who came out and stand by the door. She said, my papi says we're lucky he has the store. If he didn't, he would have to leave for el otro lado, and I wouldn't want to go. I wouldn't want him to go. I didn't want mommy to go either, she said. But she'll be back soon. And so will my papi. Don Bartolo took my grandmother's coin from his pocket and handed it to me. Don't ever think that your parents don't love you, he said. It is because they love you very much that they have left. I bought the needle for Abuela Vila as I walked home, and I told myself maybe Don Bartolo was right. I had to keep on believing that my parents had left me because they loved me too much and not because they didn't love me enough. So, what I want you guys to do now is I want you to look at the questions that I post under the video and you're going to answer them in the discussion. And then I want you guys to talk to each other, to reply to somebody else once they have posted.